Thanks for joining us again this week on the Extra Point Show.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for joining us.
So here we are recapping the Week 17 action and kind of what happened in the NFL this week. Big Jets news this week. Defensive end Shaq Lawson was released by the team heading into the last game of the season. Kind of interesting that they ended up letting him go with just one game left and didn't wait until the off season. It was noticeable that in the last couple days he'd seen less and less playing time, and in 2 of the last 3 games, I believe, he was actually a healthy scratch. Yeah, 2 out of the last 3 games he was not even active in the game. Pretty inevitable situation as far as that goes, as he was due to receive $9 million against the, or due to count $9 million against the 2022 salary cap. He was one of the players that was brought in on a 1-year deal, and the Jets traded for him at the end of the preseason, to kind of fill the need at defensive line after they had some injuries, and he ended up playing in 14 games this season for the Jets, starting 7 of them. He ended up putting up 23 tackles, 1 sack, and probably most notably the play that he's known for.
Yeah, during Cincinnati in Week 8, he tipped the pass by Joe Burrow and then caught the deflection, which is always, whenever a player like that does that. Like I remember when Montez Sweat did that last year, tipped it up and then caught it. So seeing that is always extremely exciting. I was at the Bengals 15-yard line with under 5 minutes to play, setting up the Jets' game-winning touchdown afterward. Several players called Lawson's play one of the best interceptions by a defensive lineman they had ever seen, which I could agree. It was definitely solid.
It was super athletic for an interior lineman. He just popped right up and tipped the ball right to himself. It was very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. The Jets also released veteran safety Sherrod Neesman, who played in 11 games with 14 tackles and 1 interception. So 2 players that that were productive, to some extent, but still got released.
Cleaning house, getting ready for with Lawson, it's definitely a salary cap dump of that $9 million. They're obviously going to use that money elsewhere. Whether it be free agency or to sign their next round of draft picks. But yeah, Neesman.
So this next story, this one is so he punched somebody in a Walgreens. Is that what you said?
Yeah. The next situation was the Walgreens guy.
It's a good story when it starts out with, so somebody punched someone in a Walgreens.
He got punched at the Walgreens. Yeah, apparently, according to the reports, somebody was trying to film him. There was a male employee, and then there was also a female, I believe, employee as well. Let me see. I have it right here. Let me verify.
Yeah, it says after a male employee started video of his phone.
Yeah.
Of him.
Yeah, so it says a 20-year-old male employee of Walgreens was treated for a cut on his forehead, and a 21-year-old female employee was treated for a cut on her hand, police said. Following an argument, the subjects left the store, per the citation, but then re-entered when Dupree, who then grabbed store clerk Greg Butler and his phone. The 2 proceeded to get into a physical altercation. Dupree and the people he was with left the location prior to police arrival. According to police, the incident occurred Sunday around 8 p.m. in a Walgreens location.
I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on with various teams and their players, like outside of the NFL this season. Like, the Henry Ruggs situation, and then you got the Antonio Brown thing. It's a little bit different, I guess, but like there's all this weird, this crazy shit going on. These players just wilding out and doing crazy shit, punching people in Walgreens. Like,
I mean, they've been cooped up. They were cooped up for a season, man. And I'm sure even in a lot of these places they have restrictions. So I'm sure as soon as they get a little bit of freedom, they're just
they're just
wilding
going
out.
fucking
They're just
nuts.
going. Yeah. So I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know.
apparently the Titans are aware. They issued a statement on Monday acknowledging awareness of it. So I guess we'll see how they decide to handle it in the coming weeks.
Yeah. So Bud Dupree is in his first season with the Titans after signing a 5-year, $85 million contract in free agency. He was one of the big free agent signings. He's
Mm-hmm.
played in 10 games, starting 5. He's got 1 game left to play. There's been no notice that he's going to be, fined or suspended or anything, at least to this point. But yeah, as of right now, he has 3 sacks on the season, which is a career low. And the Titans are currently 11-5, playing Houston in the last game of the season this Sunday, with a chance to clinch the #1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, which they should against Houston.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how inspired of an effort Houston plays, and
Yeah,
more importantly, probably how many starters, if any, Tennessee
right,
plays.
right,
That may be the more telling tale in that situation. But
definitely.
yeah, we'll definitely follow that and see what happens.
Now we'll get into this week's games, starting off with the Eagles versus Washington football team. Unfortunately for us Washington fans, the Eagles did come out with the win, 20-16. That game, as I do remember, started out pretty good, and it was a 10-0 at one point.
Yeah.
Washington was up and was looking decent, and then obviously towards the end of the game, it didn't turn out that way, and the Eagles ditched their playoff berth. So we moved to 6-10, and they moved to 9-7.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate situation on multiple fronts. Obviously, it's unfortunate that Washington wasn't able to get into the playoffs. Also unfortunate that the Eagles did, because depending on what ends up happening with the Niners in the final week of the season playing the Rams, um, that game could have a lot of bearing on. Because right now the Eagles are the 7th seed, the Niners are the 6th. So obviously, with
Mm-hmm.
if they've got to play the Cowboys in the final game, we play the Rams. So we do have a head-to-head tiebreaker against them though. But in other NFL news for Week 17, we have the Rams picking up a 20-17 win over the Ravens. The Ravens have lost something like, I think it's like 3 or 4, 5. I think it's like 4 straight games.
It was 20-19.
Yeah, but they've lost like 4 straight games by like a combined like 6 points. It's super close games. This was a game where Lamar Jackson was again out. Last week, Josh Johnson got the start. This week, it was again Tyler Huntley. He almost led them to a comeback, but the win improved the Rams to 12-4 and dropped the Ravens to 8-8. And Cooper Kupp surpassing Isaac Bruce for the most receiving yards in a single season in Rams history with 1,829. So his historic season just keeps on continuing.
Definitely. Next game I have is the Buccaneers versus the Jets, which I'm sure most everyone expected the Buccaneers to win, which they did, 28-24. But
It
if you
was,
watched I was gonna say,
yeah,
if you watched the game and you saw the
yeah.
score at one point, that did, I think it was 24-10 at one point.
24-10 in the third quarter. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
and
I was
yeah,
shitting bricks watching that game. I was like, what is going on?
yeah, everybody around here is freaking out. They're like, "What is happening?" Because
Yeah,
yeah, no one expected that, and luckily they did come out with that win, improving them to 12-4. The
yeah,
Jets dropping to 4-12, ironically the opposite record
yeah.
as the Bucks. And this is for Tampa Bay. It's 12 wins in a season for the second time in team history. The only other time that they did was in 2002 when they won the Super Bowl.
Back when John Gruden was the coach. Yep. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But I mean, even in a losing effort, you've got to give it up to Salah. I mean, that might
Yeah,
be Salah's coaching performance of the year right there. To hang in there with the defending Super Bowl champs. So,
definitely,
I
definitely.
mean, Salah, like I feel like he is going to be a good head coach for years to come. I mean, obviously we're only in year one, but I mean he's definitely Zach Wilson got better as the season got on, and I think that is like telling in his development. So that's a good thing.
Definitely.
Also, we had the Dolphins, who had been red hot. They came in winning 7 straight. It didn't seem like they could lose. Got smoked by the Titans, 34-3. We know firsthand what the Titans are all about because they beat us 20-17 last week on that last second field goal that we covered. But yeah, 34-3 over the Dolphins, so not even close. The Titans improved to 11-5, and the Dolphins dropped to 8-8. And that's notable for the Titans because they did clinch the AFC South division for the second straight season. That win guaranteed that the Colts could not come back even if they won out and take the division. So Titans are a dangerous team, and they're projected to get Derrick Henry back either maybe for the last game of the season, if not for the playoffs. And obviously, if they get that first round bye, that gives Derrick Henry an extra week, and that
Yeah, that's
all the
gonna make
more
all
opportunity
the
to be
difference.
dangerous. Yeah,
That's gonna make all the
exactly.
difference for
Yeah.
them. Absolutely.
It's either going to be them or Kansas City in the 1 seed in the AFC. So we'll have to monitor
Mm,
that next week and see. But the Titans won
definitely.
this week. Also, speaking of winning, the Patriots just bulldozed the Jacksonville Jaguars to the tune
I
of
was gonna say for
10.
time for an even it's an even bigger blowout than the
Yeah,
Dolphins Titans score. Technically, it's
yeah,
40-point spread. Like, oof.
yeah. That was crazy. But that did guarantee that after obviously missing the season, or missing the playoffs for 1 season, that Bill and his squad would get back into the playoffs after just one down year. They're already back in the playoffs with a 10-6 record. Jacksonville 2-14. Interesting thing about that is obviously one game left to go, but since the Lions have the tie, I think that guarantees Jacksonville the first overall pick for the second straight season. So the encouraging thing about that is, you've already got a quarterback in Jacksonville, so you don't need that anymore. So, which is great because the
Yeah,
quarterback class is
it
subpar
is not
anyway.
good.
So it gives you an opportunity to go out and maybe get another pass rusher to pair with Josh Allen on the other side. You could maybe get another really good lineman for young Trevor Lawrence. Maybe get him like the best receiver available. So all those options are available to Jacksonville. So we'll have to see what happens there.
Yeah, absolutely. Next game we have the Raiders versus the Colts.
Yep.
The Raiders won 23-20, taking them to 9-7, and the Colts are also 9-7. It's always ironic when teams have the same record.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was actually the game that with that loss right there, because the Colts had been hot coming in, and they needed to win that game to keep pace and have a chance with the head-to-head against Tennessee. But the Raiders have knocked them off, and the Raiders are keeping their playoff chances alive right now. It's coming down to, for those AFC wildcard spots, it's the Raiders, the Colts, the Chargers, and the Steelers, I believe, are the 4 teams fighting. And there's obviously 2 of them. So 2 of those teams are going to get in, 2 of them are not. So obviously that win helps the Raiders' chances. Also, it's a head-to-head win. Another game where Jonathan Taylor surpassed Edgerrin James for most rushing yards in a single season in Indianapolis Colts history with 1,734. And there's one game to go against the Jacksonville defense. The Colts play Jacksonville in Week 17, so we'll
Mm.
we'll have to see if they can get that. They basically need to win, so all they need to do is beat Jacksonville and get in.
That sounds easy enough on paper. I mean,
Sounds easy enough on paper, but winning is never easy in the NFL, and on any given Sunday, any team can win.
that is true.
And then we have which I think honestly might have been the game of the week. This was a game that I actually watched a lot of firsthand. But the Bengals taking the surprise win over the Chiefs. Not a huge surprise, but just a surprise in the sense that, you've got Andy Reid against Zach Taylor, veteran coach versus a young up and coming coach. And obviously Zach Taylor's proven with this season and with how the Bengals finished last season, because they had a strong finish last. I don't know if you remember, but after the Steelers' 11-0 start, they ended up losing to Washington, and then they
Of course,
lost a
I remember
game.
that.
I know you remember that, but then they lost the game to the Bengals after Joey Burrow busted up his knee. Also against Washington, everything happening against Washington. Um, but
Yeah.
Ryan Finley led them to another win when the wheels started to come off in Pittsburgh. So Zach Taylor picking up that win over Pittsburgh last season saved his job, and as a result, the Bengals go in 10-6 this season. So because they didn't fire their coach and they gave it one more season, which a lot of teams that's always the tell. It's like you have two bad seasons. Do you fire him or do you give him one more?
Yeah.
Obviously, Zach Taylor rewarded the Bengals for giving him another season when they picked up a 34-31 win over the Chiefs. And the Bengals clinching the AFC North for the first time since 2015 when Andy Dalton was the Bengals quarterback.
Old Andy Dalton.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, the next another pretty big blowout, the Giants and the Bears. The Giants have just been looking terrible
Oh my
now.
God, worst team in
For
football. Worst team in
I would
football
I
right
would
now.
say
Worst team in football.
looking to get like get the Lions, the Jacksonville, but no, honestly, the Giants really just might be the worst. The Bears beat them 29-3, and the Bears aren't that good of a team. They're 6-10,
No, they made the
and the
Bears look
Giants are
great.
4-12 now.
Yeah,
Yeah, they made the right
yeah,
exactly. It's kind of yeah, definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah. And that was a game that I believe. So yeah, I want to hit you with some numbers here real quick. So Andy Dalton got the start for the Bears, and Andy didn't even have a great game. It was really the defense of the Bears because Chicago, say what you will, but they do have a talented defense. And Andy Dalton was only 18 of 35 for 173 yards, one touchdown, one interception. But Mike Glennon, the Giants starter, was 4 out of 11 for 24 yards, no touchdowns, two interceptions. And he also had, on the very first play of the game, he was sacked and fumbled the ball, and it was recovered in the end zone for a Giants touchdown. Or, I'm sorry, for a Bears touchdown. Yeah, he had 4 fumbles on the game. He lost 2. So he had 2 fumbles and two.
Wow.
Yeah, so Glennon had a terrible game. Like, one of the historically worst quarterbacking performances of all time. And notable about that
Yeah.
is Robert Quinn, the Bears defender, would register 18 sacks. It was pretty easy to get back there and sack Glennon in that one. But he would get 18 sacks on the season, which would be the most by a Chicago Bears player since Richard Dent in 1982.
Wow. That's a lot of sacks.
A lot of sacks.
Yeah. Next game we have the Falcons and the Bills. Bills came out on top, 29-15, improving them to 10-6,
Yep.
and dropping the Falcons to 7-9. And Buffalo has 3 straight 10-plus win seasons for the first time since 1990 to 1993.
Yeah, back during the Jim Kelly days when they were a really good team. And yeah, that game all but eliminates the Falcons now at 7-9 from the playoffs. At this
Yeah.
point, they're basically done. And the Bills now they've got a 10-6 record. The Patriots have a 10-6 record by way of their smashing of Jacksonville that we mentioned just a few moments ago. So both of those teams going into a head-to-head matchup, or I'm sorry, no, I misspoke. Sorry. Um, for the last game of the season, the division is on the line between those two teams, with New England playing the Miami Dolphins, and the Bills have Bills Jets. Duh. Of course I knew that.
The
Yeah.
Patriots and the Dolphins are in the same division.
Yeah, the Patriots, Dolphins, Bills, and Jets are all in the AFC East.
That is weird.
Yeah, it's the AFC East, but it's all on the East. It's not like on the same side of the country, but it's all on the East Coast.
Yeah, I get it, but like the
Yeah,
distance
they're
between
like they're like we're just going.
they're
Just
making this shit up.
they're like
Whatever,
just shut
whatever.
the fuck up. We're just going with it. Just don't ask questions. Yeah.
Actually,
Well,
if you look at the divisions and where the teams are located, a lot of them don't really make sense.
yeah.
Like not entirely.
Yeah, that's true.
Like you
I
got the
mean,
NFC East with Dallas in it, and Dallas is nowhere near the fucking East Coast. I
Jer-
mean,
Jer-
it's like
nobody wants Jerry to be that close, so they send him away. Uh, anyway, yeah. Um, so the Niners picking up in a game where they had to win. I mean, we're in a we mentioned the Eagles and the Eagles getting a win. Obviously, the Saints continue to be a competitive team, so we're in that NFC playoff race. So in a game where we absolutely had to win, and also on top of that, if that wasn't enough pressure, we're also starting Trey Lance for his second career game. I like Trey a lot. I will go on record, and you know this, bud, because I told you. But Trey was the guy that I wanted. In hindsight, now knowing what I know, knowing how good and NFL ready,
Mac
maybe
Jones
maybe
kind
Mac Jones was his pick.
of.
But I still, I mean, if Trey ends up being like Steve Young meets Colin Kaepernick, like, I mean, then this pick's going to be really solid. Obviously, that's a big ask, and we've only seen him play
That's a big
a
if.
small
You
a
got to
small
yeah,
sample size, but like it'll be fine. But yeah, but Mac Jones looking pretty good so far too, obviously.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we beat the Texans 23-7, improved the Niners to 9-7, dropped Houston to 4-12. That game was surprisingly low scoring. It was 7-3 Houston in the first half before it seemed like Kyle kind of opened it up more for Trey in the second half, which we'll get more into in a little bit. Don't want to get too far into that, but important thing there is the Niners are still alive, and that's what we needed to do was win.
Definitely, definitely. The Chargers came on top against the Broncos, 34-13,
Yep.
improving the Chargers to 9-7 and the Broncos to 7-9. Justin Herbert surpassed Philip Rivers for most pass touchdowns in the season with 35.
Yeah, that's impressive.
In
that's
Chargers history, and that's definitely impressive. I mean, not a lot of guys are like Reed and Aaron Rodgers hitting 43 and and crazy numbers like that, but that's especially for that team, that's big for them to break a record like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, and obviously with that stated, he also has one game left to go as well. So even the opportunity to add a little bit more onto that. But yeah,
Definitely.
the Broncos. I mean, at that point, again, 7-9 team, they're basically eliminated from the playoffs as well. The Chargers still do have a shot. So interestingly enough, heading into the last game of the season, it's going to be either them or the Raiders getting into one of the spots, and they play the Raiders in a head-to-head. So that's like the best thing ever for playoff football, when you have to like play a team head-to-head, and it's like a win and you're in. It's like a pre-playoff game. It's like a mini playoff game. Yeah. So we're gonna see how that goes, because obviously the Raiders have been heating up. I think they've won like 2 or 3 straight games as well. So the Raiders are coming in hot. The Chargers just got a big win. Broncos with Drew Lock starting again, only getting 13 points. So continue to be kind of disappointing offensively, even though their defense is good. But we also have, speaking of, we mentioned them just a moment ago, the Saints picking up a pretty ugly 18-10. Looks like a high-scoring baseball game score over the Carolina Panthers, which advanced the Saints to 8-8. Dropped the Carolina Panthers to 5-11. The Panthers have long since been eliminated from the playoffs. The Saints still have a shot, as we mentioned. They could actually get in our spot if we lose to the Rams and they beat the Falcons in week 18. So we definitely need to take care of business against the Rams. because the Saints have been winning like dirty football games. I can't have the Saints getting into the playoffs because they're winning those kind of games that can like win a playoff game. They're winning
Yeah.
these like beat 'em up like 18. Good defense. It's like they held Tom Brady to that 9-0 game. They don't even have to look good on offense, and they're winning some games. So I can't have this shit. Like we need the Saints getting bounced. I mean, if ever there was a reason or a week for Matty Ice, old Matt Ryan, like I've mentioned before, Matt Ryan's played in the NFL for like 175 years. Not really that much, but he is a veteran. But if there was ever a day for Matt Ryan to go out there and target his depleted roster, which is basically just Kyle Pitts at this point and Russell Gage, I'm hoping that this is the week because we need a Falcons win. Um, what's the next game on here, bud? I'm all frazzled.
We got the Lions Seahawks. The Seahawks who are out of the playoffs and
Make
have
me
been
more fucking frazzled after that fucking.
well, I mean, this is a good one. I mean, it doesn't really matter if they win or not, I guess. I mean, even though they did win, they're already out of the
matters
playoffs.
to still know that they can score 51 points.
51, yeah. I
But
mean,
they could have
yeah.
done that all along.
But it was against the Lions, dude. It was 51-29 against the Lions.
Motor City
come on.
Dan Campbell is Motor City Dan Campbell coaches the hard football team. Like that team plays with heart, grit, and determination, and nobody can tell me otherwise from what we've seen all season long. I mean, the Lions have an opportunity at 2-13-1. They're going into the last game of the season against Green Bay with a lot to prove. This game right here for Detroit, bud, that they're coming into could make this is their fucking Super Bowl right here. And the game doesn't mean a damn thing to Green Bay. Green Bay is already the NFC's number one seed, so Green Bay doesn't give a shit. I mean, it's questionable whether they're even going to play their starters. Aaron says he wants to play. LaFleur says he's not so sure. I sure as hell wouldn't play him. I'd be like, absolutely not, Aaron.
No.
Like if you're going to go, like Aaron's already nursing a toe. Like I love Aaron Rodgers and everything, but I mean, if Aaron's like, oh, I want to go play in a meaningless game when you already, like, if they could get first, by lieu of winning that game, absolutely play him.
Yeah.
You got something to gain, but
they don't.
I don't know.
That's pointless.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely odd. Also, Russell Wilson tied Peyton Manning for most quarterback wins in his first 10 seasons since 1950 with 112. Just a quick stat there.
Russ is all they got.
Yeah, the next game I would particularly like to mention, even though it really doesn't make any difference, but it's just nice the fact that the Cowboys lost. The Cardinals. I mean, I guess it's kind of with the NFC West, it's kind of the same thing with the Cardinals. The Rams
the Cardinals needed that win desperately.
They did. They definitely did.
Or they had lost 3 straight games, and the wheels were coming off. Without DeAndre Hopkins, we've been talking about it, how they've been collapsing. But yeah, so they really needed this win, and Dallas had been coming in, playing really some of their best offensive football of the season. So definitely a big stop. Obviously, advanced the Cardinals to 11-5, and dropped the Cowboys to 11-5. Both of those teams are getting in the playoffs. It's just a matter of where.
Yeah, it's odd too that Arizona's won the last 6 of the 7 games versus Dallas. So it's like they got their number kind of.
Yeah, that is interesting. I will also note about that is since Arizona has started to fall down the toilet in recent weeks, they had a big gain in the division, but now the Rams are actually 1 game ahead. So they go into the last game of the season where they play the Seahawks. Where if we beat, that's fine. It's whatever. Shit happens.
Yeah, you are right. I was thinking that the Cardinals are still in first, but I remember the Rams are higher now. So that's why I was going to say it's like the Cowboys in the NFC East. It was like, oh wait, no, they're not. No longer.
Yeah. So the So the Rams play us in the last game of the season, and we've got the Rams numbers obviously having won 5 straight against them, and the Cardinals play the Seahawks. So there's a chance that if we take care of the Rams and the Cardinals take care of what they need to do and beat the Seahawks tomorrow, that the Cardinals actually win the NFC West. But we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah.
And also, speaking of divisional rivalries, the Packers smoked the Vikings 37-10 in a game that wasn't even close. Kirk Cousins would sit out the game due to COVID, and Sean Mannion would get the start. And yeah, it was a super frigid game, super icy conditions, and the Vikings, who play in probably the coldest state in the U.S., Minnesota, just could not get anything going against Green Bay as they got bulldozed, and the Packers are now 13-3, and like we mentioned previously, they are the number one seed in the NFC going into the final week. So it really doesn't matter what they do. I mean, they could trot out the practice squad, and if I was LaFleur, I probably would for that game. I mean,
get them the experience. Let them have some
yeah.
playing time.
I mean,
That's worth it in itself.
God forbid Devontae Adams or Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Jones or Preston Smith gets hurt in a game that doesn't help you. That would be the ultimate worst. And if you don't believe me, ask John Harbaugh how it feels to lose players that you're planning on counting on for the season in a meaningless game.
Yeah. All right, and the last game of the week we have is the Browns and the Steelers. The Steelers managed to win that 26-14, keeping their playoff hopes alive going into the final week here. They on life support, but yeah, they it's not over yet, unfortunately, because I'm not a big fan of the Steelers, but they did win, making them 7-1. The Browns dropped to 7-9.
Did you say 7-1, or
no, 7-9?
Okay, my bad. I thought I misheard you. I thought for the Steelers record I heard. But never mind. I'm tripping.
Oh, I said 8-7-1.
Oh, okay.
Steelers record.
Okay. Sometimes the audio just sounds weird for a second, so maybe it just frazzled there. But yeah, so in that game, something worth mentioning. We usually don't go too into stats besides the stats that we put up on the screen for you. But at one point, Baker started the day like 1 for 10. And obviously, as we reported on last week, and I think we've mentioned it on previous shows, Baker's been dealing with a lot with that non-throwing shoulder where he's got to wear a restrictive harness. But he finished the day 16 of 38 for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. After a game last week where on Christmas he had thrown for 4 interceptions against Green Bay in a game where they lost 24-22. So Baker 6 picks in the last 2 weeks. Obviously, it's affecting his play. It was announced after the game that, or a couple days after this game, that Baker would actually be getting shut down for the season. So the Browns are planning on going into the season finale, since they are eliminated from the playoffs.
Case Keenum
getting the start. Yeah, so Case Keenum will be getting the start. Baker getting off-season shoulder surgery. And I also saw a report, because I know we'll end up talking more about this, that early speculation is that Baker will be back with the Browns. Is that the Browns?
Yeah, I remember I did see that as well. Which, I mean, that would really seem like the smart choice. I mean, if they moved on from Baker, I
would agree. I would agree, but it would also be the ultimate Browns thing to do, to move on from Baker Mayfield, because almost what's more Browns than keeping Baker Mayfield, who, by the way, in his 4 years has thrown more interceptions than any other quarterback in the league. But I still think that's more situational, and that's because Baker. I mean, Brett Favre did the same shit for a long time. I mean, he's a gunslinger. That's basically, that's how they are. And obviously, it doesn't help when you throw 6 in 2 games right there. And I mean, he's been playing.
Yeah, that's bad.
He's been playing
that's
hurt.
2 more than Aaron Rodgers has all damn season.
Yeah, and he's been playing hurt all season, dude. Yeah, could you imagine Aaron sitting on the sideline in a game where Baker chucks up 4 picks, and Aaron's there? He's like, I've got 4 all year. he's like this dude just fucking threw my whole season in one night. Yeah. So but anyway, like I was saying, my point, it would almost be the most Browns thing to do, because it would be the Browns move to the moment they start getting a little taste of success. And they go
Yeah.
11-5 and they go to the playoffs. They go 7-9, maybe 7-10 or 8-9, depending on how next week's game goes against Cincinnati. And let's be real, we don't expect Cincinnati at 10-6 now to play starters going into that game, since Cincinnati has locked up a playoff spot. So the Browns
Yeah.
have a real shot to win that game. Case Keenum is certainly serviceable,
Yeah.
but yeah. So the Browns have higher expectations now, but yeah, it would be like the Browns too as soon as they start having a little taste of success to be like, well, maybe we could go into the draft and get somebody else. It's like maybe it's like, oh no, Baker has proven he's serviceable. He's good. I mean, he's had pretty good numbers. I mean, like this season wasn't good, but I mean, again, the guy's been playing hurt since week 4. I mean, Baker at one point before Justin Herbert came and set the world on fire in 2018. Baker started 13 games, threw 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions as a rookie. So that was the rookie
Damn good
record
for a rookie.
until Herbert broke the rookie record a couple seasons later. And then last season he had 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. This season 17 touchdowns, 13 picks. So obviously this season was a down season, but it is what it is, man. Every quarterback has probably one of those somewhere in there.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that's the week 17 games. Just wanted to go through those and recap the action. We have one more week of NFL games. We will let you know next week who definitively gets into the playoffs and how those games go. So stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. What's up, Redskins fans? Welcome to this week's Redskins Rundown. We have some interesting news, exciting news, I guess, depending how you look at it, about the new name announcement. They recently decided on a date to release the new name, which is February 2nd of this year, 2022.
Less than a month.
Yep, less than a month. So we will find out very soon what the new name is going to be. Some bad news in that front, at least in my opinion, and I think with most fans, is Jason Wright came out and specifically said that Wolves or Red Wolves is out. Like that's not going to be due to trademark issues, as they say. I mean, I think that's more maybe a money issue. Maybe they don't want to pay for the name. They say they're going to listen to the fans, and then they go. And they didn't really, because if you listen to the fans, if any group you've been, if you're part of Redskins groups, you see that there's people out there that don't like it. Oh, it sounds like a high school team. There's definitely those people as well, but the large majority of us definitely, Red Wolves, Redskins, like it works.
It definitely would have had a nice ring to it, and obviously what they could have also done was we saw on a lot of like mock-ups that they did that with the
wolf tail.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, that's pretty slick. I like that a lot.
And then you got Howl to the Red Wolves, like Hail to the Redskins. Yeah. There's no other name that I've heard, that works like that. And I think that's why people liked it. Like, yeah, I can understand maybe how people feel like, oh, it sounds kind of high schoolish or, not NFL but at the same time, I always really like the name. Like I can get maybe where they're coming from, but I think that's just because it's a new name. But unfortunately, the point was that name is out. So talking about it, I guess at this point really is pointless. It's unfortunate. As far as I've seen, the current list of like remaining names, it hasn't really seemed to have been very concrete. Yeah. The main names that are there are
here that we'll put up on the screen.
Yeah, you have the list. Go ahead and read it off.
So we've got obviously we're going to go ahead and cross off Red Wolves here. So with the list of remaining on the list, we have the Red Hogs, the Defenders, the Armada, Presidents, Brigade, Commanders, or of course the Washington Football Team. Which of those
options?
There's
also the Admirals. That's right, one of the other ones.
Right.
Which most of those names, I mean. Red Hogs would be cool because it has a throwback to Hogs, and obviously they want to live,
that.
Exactly. They want to follow, and honor the past. That would be a really good way to do it. That would be a cool surprise because at this point it seems like Commanders is like the the favorite for what people think. I've also heard Admirals as well. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, that's not a name I
Yeah.
particularly
Yeah.
like.
I mean,
Commanders, I don't like that much either, but I think I
yeah.
could get behind that one. It's
Yeah,
like,
and to be honest, of those options, I kind of like it, if we're eliminating Red Wolves, which we
right,
are,
which we did,
then
yeah.
I mean I've kind of grown on the Washington football team. Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
if we're doing that, I mean, at this point, we've had it for 2 seasons. They've repped it. And I mean,
Yeah, definitely. It's grown on me. I actually agree. I was just trying to pick from the possible
sure,
new names.
sure,
Yeah, I guess Washington football team is probably still an option, and I agree actually. If it was between the current list of finalists and that, I would kind of prefer that. I mean, there's teams out there that are called the Browns and the Texans. Like,
right.
like people want to be like, oh, you got a stupid
How
name or you're a football team. I'm like, you
how
know what,
yeah,
dude? Like,
yeah. How
it
how
doesn't. It's not what
how
matters. Like,
generic is that? So
it
yeah,
is generic, and
yeah,
and I wouldn't argue against that. Someone said that to me, like, you're right, it is a generic name, but is it better than like a Washington president? Absolutely, I'll take the Washington football team 1,000 times over
hmm
some name like that.
I hope it's not the
So,
presidents. Oh my
if
God.
it was, oh my god, that's the event. They're not going to be a team in like 2-3 years if that happens. Like I'm very nervous about this new
Well,
name.
we'll know soon. We'll know like
Like,
just
I mean, I will, I'd say we'll cover as things develop, but
mhm,
obviously nothing's going to develop until the 2nd of February. So, when that day comes, we'll definitely cover that. Of course, that's going to be a big day for Washington
yeah.
fans to see where this whole long journey of the new brand and renaming the team goes, and if they actually listen to what fans thought, which at this point doesn't really seem like it, but we'll see.
Although I will say this, that we've seen based off the teaser video that they gave, if they are going with Washington football team, they have completely changed the jerseys because that's like the
That's
whole
true.
yeah.
But it is
So
still a W as far as we know. It's a W on the helmet. So
could be. So it's still in
it
play.
still could
Still
be.
in
It
play.
still could be. Although, I mean, I would oh man, I honestly, not thinking about it, I would prefer that at this point. If they just stuck with that, change the helmet to something other than the numbers, because I mean, the numbers were cool, but like you gotta have a logo on your helmet. I mean, like
Yeah.
look at the Browns helmet, that's just
Did you
ridiculous.
did you see the hit where the I think it was it Patterson or Gibson where he went into the hole and like made contact and like the decal just like flew off.
Yes, I
Yeah,
did. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, that was crazy.
yeah. I was like, all right, so maybe it's time to retire the numbers on the helmets. Maybe that was the sign.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would agree. I mean, I think it was a cool look, especially given the situation and the team and name. It's a good thing that instead of being like the Browns and having nothing, it was a good idea. It worked for with at the moment. But if they stuck with the Washington football team name with the W logo, I would be totally cool with that. But I mean, there's some pictures of the patches of DC football commanders. Or there's like the people's team. There's been like a lot of different things on social
Hmm.
media, leaked pictures of the video, which I don't think they'd really show anything on the video. I mean, it wasn't one thing. There was different things, but
Yeah.
I don't think they'd be that. But you know what? Who knows? Dan Snyder still does own the team, so you never know. But he
He
doesn't seem to be
does
running things. So let's have a positive outlook and hope it
yeah,
turns out well.
for sure.
One other positive note, left tackle Charles Leno agrees to a 3-year extension for $37.5 million, which is good news to get that position locked down. He's played well for us this season, so I'm happy to see that happen.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely has. He's actually the only lineman that they have that started every single game, so all 17 games. So
Yeah, and a guy that can play every game like that is gold in the NFL. Really, I mean that's really what you want.
yeah, and I mean especially left tackle being pretty much that key position, especially for a right-handed quarterback because that's going to be the
Absolutely.
person protecting his blind side there. Obviously, we have Big Trent Williams, and Charles Leno has really come on. He was a good player for a long time, for 6 years with the Bears. He's only 30 years old, so a veteran player, but not to the point where he's not. He still has five, six,
That is
seven good
pretty
years.
old for a left tackle, though. I mean,
He's
30. I mean, that seems kind of. I actually didn't know that. I thought he was younger than that.
yeah, no, he's I mean by comparison, I think Trent Williams is 33.
Well, Trent Williams
So
is 30. He's
yeah,
33.
yeah. So I mean, and Trent Williams is still going to play for like 4 or 5 more years. So
Hmm.
I mean, he'll be fine. Don't worry about him. He's been a good player for a long time.
He
I'm sure
has,
he's
and
gonna be
I think he'll be good too. I mean, I agree. He played well this year for us, so happy to see that.
yeah,
Hopefully, they can work out some deals, with McLaurin and other key players.
yeah. I mean, obviously that's the next step, and then of course figuring out who he's going to be protecting back there would be the
Yeah,
other part of that. But yeah, at least good to start, putting some of these pieces together before the off season even really starts.
yeah, absolutely. All right, well, on to the Eagles game, or well, the second Eagles game in 2 weeks
Yep.
because of our weird last five
schedule.
game schedule.
Yeah.
Very strange. But yeah, so Washington got the ball to start the game, which, in my opinion, as I'm sure I've said a lot.
You always say.
Yeah, and it's just never a good sign. Generally, when we get the ball first, I don't know what it is. It just doesn't. And we started off good too in the game, but like I don't know what it is. It's just a thing. But
Yeah.
so DeAndre Carter took a good kick return out past the 30, and then Jarrett Patterson got the start in place of Gibson, who was on the COVID list, who had a good game in my opinion, as we'll cover.
Yeah,
but
yeah, he did. He did.
yeah, him and Williams as well have both looked quite good. On our early 3rd and 3, Heinicke connected with Cam Sims for a first down and a gain of 16 yards. Surprisingly, only Sims' 12th catch of the season to this point. It's kind of unfortunate to see him not utilized as much.
That's true. I was thinking that too when I saw that was only his 12th catch, and I know he's been dealing with some injury problems, so obviously he hasn't played an entire season.
Right. But yeah, that's still I'm not sure how many games he's played offhand, but
actually, you know what? He's played in 14, so he's only missed 3 games.
Okay, yeah, I figured it was most of the games, but yeah, I mean, so that's a very low number of catches.
Coming off a career best 32 catch, 477 yard, 1 touchdown season, he has 15 catches for 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. So definitely not,
got another touchdown, but yeah, definitely not as good stats.
Yeah, so I mean, and you would think that he would. It's not exactly like other receivers are, kicking ass, and that's the reason he's not getting looks. I mean, it's basically still been all Terry, or actually, Adam Humphries has gotten.
Yeah, well, it depends on the game. I mean, there's last couple of games Terry didn't get targeted much at all, compared to how earlier in the season he was targeted.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He has struggled, especially in the last 2 games where Taylor has played Dallas, or the last couple of games in which he had a really hard time. That Trayvon Diggs factor, but happy to be done with them for the season.
Yeah, I would just personally like to forget about that game. Yeah. The one in particular.
It's understandable.
Like we can just act like that didn't happen, but
yeah, Adam Humphries. Obviously this was supposed to probably be where Curtis Samuel came into play, or maybe even De'Ami Brown. But the receiver that has the second most catches for Washington is Humphries with 40. So
wow.
Yeah. Now, surprisingly, Humphries has no touchdowns. But he still has 1 game left against the Giants, and they're pretty awful defense. So he's got 1 more chance to potentially score a touchdown. So hopefully, all of his hard work and
if his one good route it works in the end zone, then he's good to go.
Well, I mean, ideally, what he would need to do is break one of those in cutting routes for a lot of yards and take it to the house, but.
Right, that's true. You're right. That would make more sense.
Yeah, but I mean, he's probably not in on a lot of the red zone packages. So yeah, that's another interesting thought. But yeah, maybe he'll get one against the Giants.
Yeah. So after Cam's 12th catch of the season, Heinicke's next 2 completions went for 10 yards to Humphries and 24 yards to John Bates to set up an 11-yard. An 11-yard Jarrett Patterson rushing touchdown to put Washington up 7-0 early on.
Yep.
Taylor was 3 for 3 at this point with for 50 yards on the first drive. And Jarrett Patterson coming out and looking good as well. Good again, once again. I mean, I think I said this before, but our running back depth just feels really good. Like, it doesn't really matter who's back there. I'm not like, oh man, Gibson's out, fucking Patterson. No, I'm like, cool, all right. Like Patterson will get it done.
Yeah,
like and even Williams hasn't been in a lot, but when he is in, like, he's looked good.
That's how we felt for a long time. I know I always tell you about how good I feel about our running. It's like, okay, it's like, do you want Jeff Wilson? Do you want Elijah Mitchell? It's like, when we're lucky enough to have him, do you want Raheem the Dream? You know, it's like,
I was gonna say,
it's like who do you want? You know, it's like, so yeah, it's a good thing to have. But Jarrett Patterson on the day, 12 carries, 57 yards, and that touchdown. So he was Washington's leading rusher.
Yeah, he definitely had a good game.
Yeah.
So after that touchdown, after being stuffed for no gain on first down, Jalen Hurts found rookie wide receiver Devontae Smith 30 yards. The Eagles would face a 4th and 2, despite being the worst team in the league on 4th down this year with 5 out of 17.
5 out of 17, yeah.
They would go for it.
Yeah.
And it was handed off to Jordan Howard, but he would be stuffed by Ioannidis, Cam Curl, and others.
Yeah, it was
which
like,
was great.
Gang tackled. Yeah, he was
that was nice. Like, I honestly thought they would get it, to be honest with you.
The Eagles even went with their power back, Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard's their power back, and just couldn't get it done. Couldn't get the penetration.
Couldn't get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Washington would take over on downs. Heinicke made an excellent play on 3rd and 1 when Derek Barnett almost got to him for a sack. He drifted back in the pocket to avoid the rush, like he often tries to do, and floated the ball over the linebacker to Ricky Seals-Jones for a big first down. Yeah, and I always love seeing Heinicke, the way he's in the pocket. And yeah, he gets sacked sometimes, like especially when they get through quickly, like any quarterback would. But he's very evasive. He ducks and he gets away.
Last week he had that one where he ducked down and he did the sidearm around the guy.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah,
that was nice.
I mean, it's like he's definitely put together some good plays. I mean, it's been a season of, pretty it's been up and down, but he's definitely made some. He's got good tape. He's put some good tape out there.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about what we think about the future of Taylor Heinicke after we cover the game here.
For sure.
Yeah. So after that, Diami Brown would make a 20-yard catch on the next play. Always good to see the rookie out there getting some yards and catching some passes. Absolutely. Yep. Taylor would find Terry McLaurin for a gain of 12 on the following play. Taylor started the game 6 and 6 for 95 yards. So, couldn't really ask for much better than that.
Yeah,
with completions to 6 different receivers.
Yeah, I thought that was
spreading the love all
around.
Around. Like, this game started out.
Defend.
Yeah, the way this game started out was phenomenal. At this point, I was like, holy shit, this is great.
Yeah.
But on the next play, while under heavy pressure, Heinicke just threw the ball up, and it was picked by linebacker Jannard Avery. But an illegal contact penalty before the pass would give Washington back the ball. Thank God.
Yeah.
But that was just a stroke of luck. And then Jonathan Williams, I think he's a 3rd string, right? He's probably the 3rd string running back.
Yeah, I think
maybe even 4th. I don't know.
Yeah, he was in there behind Smallwood as well.
Oh, behind Smallwood. Well, he's definitely moved up over that for sure.
Yeah.
After although he did fumble on the next play, but he other than that fumble. Oh no, but he was ruled down. That's right. That's right. I was going to say, because he was down.
Yeah, that's true. And so Washington ends up putting together a pretty good drive, but they stall out. And they end up taking a 31-yard Joey Sly field goal, who we didn't really address, came back last week in the Dallas game. I mean, they obviously only scored 14 points, 2 extra points, so he really wasn't much of a factor. But yeah, it was good to get him back, obviously, and kind of stabilize the kicking position for at least the last few weeks. But that would.
We didn't mention that last week. I
don't think we covered that because it was such a shit show. But yeah, that would.
Oh, I guess that's possible. I guess it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that would put him up 10-0. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. So at this point, game was looking great. Heinicke's throwing perfectly. Both quarterbacks would start 7-7.
Yep.
Before Jalen Hurts' first incompletion on a 3rd and goal. The Eagles would go for it on 4th and goal and, of course, score a Boston Scott rushing touchdown to cut the lead to 10-7. So this is when it started to take a turn, take a turn.
Yeah.
Washington would put together another good-looking drive, taking the ball inside the red zone before Josh Sweat would get around Cornelius Lucas for a big sack on Heinicke.
Yeah.
And Heinicke, he continued to have a perfect game for at least in terms of his ratio. He started 11 for 11 for 138 yards before his first incompletion on a shot to the end zone for Ricky Seals-Jones.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Jones took a really, really bad looking impact into two cameramen.
Yeah.
They did show a shot of the camera here, and I don't know what he hit. I don't know if the camera is what he hit, and because I guess he had a neck injury of some kind.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I mean they had to cart him off the field.
It seemed like he went like head first into the camera, like when I saw it on the replay.
I guess those cameras maybe they're heavy, man. I mean I don't know what those cameras what they're like, but
heavy.
So but he also had a helmet on, so
yeah.
I'm confused how he got injured so badly from that when he's playing NFL football. Like, I mean, yeah, you ran into a camera, but dude, you got pads and a helmet on. Like, it was just odd to see him down like that and to stay down. It's like, what the heck happened?
Able to like brace. He probably didn't see it coming either, so he probably couldn't brace for the contact. And
I guess that's true.
It's another thing if you're getting ready to light some linebacker up in the hole for a block or something, but you anticipate it, but I don't know.
Yeah, it was just an interesting situation. And then the camera guy that got hit, he actually did get back up and went back out and kept working. So he was all right, but yeah,
that guy was pretty ballsy. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, Seals-Jones got messed up though on that, unfortunately. And with Logan Thomas out, yeah, it's like, come on, man, we can't be having that. After that, Joey Sly would add a 39-yard field goal attempt to put Washington ahead 13-7. So Washington had scored on their first three drives, which is
they did
great. And that's not something there's been many times we don't score in the first quarter. A lot of games, like you wouldn't even start playing until the second half.
Right. So
to see this kind of a start,
yeah,
absolutely. To see this kind of a start, I mean, it started 10-0 and even at this point, 13-7 with the way Heinicke's looking. I mean, the game looks great. We're still up by a possession, 6 points.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And then I mean, even on the next drive, you guys had him backed up facing a 3rd and 8, and then all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts breaks contain and scrambles for a 22-yard gain for a first down. So it's like you guys were about to get off the field, and then it's a back-breaking play there. So I mean, you guys end up managing to get him off the field on a third and 2. It looked like Casey Toohill had Hurts sacked, but Hurts ended up spinning out of it and stayed on his feet. However, Jamin Davis would come in there and clean it up for his first career sack. So
yeah, that was nice to see. That was cool to see him get that sack. I was definitely excited for him.
That was big.
And he's been a bit of a disappointment in some ways.
It's been a slow start to his career. Yeah,
exactly. So, and I don't want to say disappointment because I don't know if that's necessarily accurate because he's had some good moments. So I don't want to say that. And I think there's also been talk of maybe moving him in position in some way. I'm not entirely sure what the specifics are on that, but
yeah, I know that right now they've got him playing more as like an outside linebacker, but I mean potentially, I don't know, maybe they'll try to use him more as like a pass rusher or something like that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows how they'll choose to jack.
I know I saw something about that, like maybe it should change his position. That might help, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully,
you probably have to add some weight to do that, but yeah.
That's true. After an excellent punt, Washington would be pinned at their own 6-yard line with 2:06 left in the half.
Yeah.
Washington would play it aggressively after picking up an initial first down, moving it 57 yards on 11 plays to get in range for a 55-yard Joey Sly field goal attempt, which put us up 16-7 at the half.
Joey Banger with the leg. I mean,
side note about Joey Sly.
Yeah.
Joey Sly does not look like a kicker. He looks like a linebacker.
Joey Sly is jacked. He's pretty jacked, yeah.
Yeah, he really is. Like I was noticing that just in the last game. I was like, oh my god, he really is significantly bigger. Like
he hit a 56-yarder in one of the 3 games that we had him cover for us when Robbie was out. And usually Kyle doesn't try anything longer than like 53 with Robbie because Robbie's super accurate, but he doesn't have the leg he once did. But Kyle took full advantage when Joey Sly was filling in, and he had Joey Sly nail a 56-yarder. So our longest field goal of the season was with Joey Sly in there. He's got a
Nice.
huge leg, and I mean his
Yeah.
kickoffs are always through the back of the end zone.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm really happy to have him, especially after losing Dustin Hopkins. He wasn't exactly solid when we had him, but he was better than anyone we had until we got Joey Sly. But Joey Sly seems to be working for us. I imagine he'll be back next season. I don't see why he wouldn't be. He's
Dustin
had a
Hopkins
very
is
good record.
one. Dustin Hopkins is one game away from potentially getting in the playoffs with the Chargers. So
Yeah.
we'll have to monitor that.
Yeah. So following the 16-7 end at halftime, the Eagles would get the ball coming out. They would put together a very methodical drive, which involved a 3rd and 14 conversion when Hurts would avoid the blitz and find Greg Ward down to the Washington 6.
Yeah.
Washington's defense would bring up a 4th down and 1, but for the 3rd time, Philly would go for it, converting for the 2nd time.
Nick Sirianni was really just trying to like break Washington's balls all day. It's like, come on, man. It's like, how many times are you gonna go for it?
Yeah, seriously.
It's like, Jesus.
That was pissing me off, dude.
It's
like,
like
come on.
Nick Sirianni was running that game like real life Madden. It's like, I'm just gonna go for it every play. I was like, all right, cool, man. I guess.
Yeah, definitely. After that, Jalen Hurts actually got stepped on by his center, which was hilarious to watch.
But it was impressive, honestly.
It was impressive because he actually, as he's falling backwards, he pitches the ball to Boston Scott for his 2nd rushing touchdown of the day. But
it's like
initially it was funny to watch, and then I saw, the results. I was like, oh man, how did that still happen? But
it was a fucking grace of luck, is what it was, because that is insane. But yeah, that would end up cutting the game to a 16-14 Washington lead. But and the Eagles managed to bleed 7 minutes and 39 seconds. So like half the quarter, was bled off in that one drive alone.
Definitely, yeah. They had the ball for a very long time.
They did.
And after scoring on all 4 possessions in the first half, Washington would start their first drive of the 3rd quarter with a 3 and out. Of course, when we need, you got to keep points on the board, guys. Yeah. So after a second Josh Sweat sack, it would set up the first punt of the day for fill-in punter Ryan Winslow.
Just off the squad.
Yeah, because Tressway was out with COVID, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, which when we didn't really need a punter until that time. But
you guys only punted twice all game, and honestly, he didn't do.
He didn't do terribly. I mean, he did fine.
The kid didn't do too bad. 2 punts, averaged 42 yards a kick, long of 46. So
yeah,
admirable job.
Yeah, definitely not bad. Can't complain about that.
Washington admiral job, maybe.
Oh God.
I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, after picking up 1 first down, the Eagles would punt the ball back to Washington.
That was shitty.
Backed up inside the 5-yard line. Sadiq Charles was called for a false start, which backed him up even further. Which is great.
Yeah.
They would get some breathing room on a quick slant to Terry McLaurin for his 6th catch of the day. Patterson would pick up a first down on the next play. And then on the following play, Taylor would scramble for a gain of 12 and another first down.
Yep.
So very good looking drive. Unfortunately, it would stall out after Taylor was sacked for the 3rd time of the game on a 3rd and 9, once again by Jannard Avery.
Yep. And then this is when Ryan Winslow would punt for said 2nd time with 49 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. And Washington at that point still holding a 16-14 lead going into the 4th quarter.
Yep. At least for a time.
Yeah.
Until the Eagles' following drive, 10-play, 48-yard drive, the Eagles managed to take their first lead of the day on a 42-yard Jake Elliott field goal with 11 minutes and 41 seconds left. So, and that would make the score 17-16.
That's another kicker that's got a fucking huge leg is Jake Elliott for the Eagles. He's got a monster leg too. That kid can really drive the shit out of the football. Very impressive. The Eagles just gave him a big deal last offseason too, so he's going to be in town for a while. But yeah, so then facing a 4th and 5 at midfield, Washington would end up going for it on their next drive. And the pass would end up being dropped on what would have been a first down by rookie receiver Dax Milne. We've been mentioning Dax a little bit more recently, as he's been getting more catches here and there in the last few games. So big opportunity when his number was called. They looked his way.
Big opportunity, and he dropped it.
And that's not how you get back on the field.
Yeah, it's not.
That's not how you impress the coaching staff,
especially on a fourth down. Like,
that's a gotta have it play. I mean, at that point, your team's going for it. You've got only so many possessions left in the game. That's a gotta have it play.
Exactly. So unfortunately, Philly would take over at midfield with 7:31 left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Washington would force a 4th and 1, but once again, Nick Sirianni would go for it because he just did that all damn day.
All day.
And on a QB sneak, Hurts picks up the first down to continue milking the clock. So when it was all done, the Eagles managed to take 5 minutes and 10 seconds off the clock and 1 yard Jake Elliott field goal to increase the lead to 20-16 with 2 minutes and 21 to play. So Washington would take over still with 2 timeouts, and Heinicke would put together a drive that got all the way down to the Eagles' 20. But they'd be forced to use their final timeout with 30 seconds remaining, down 4 and needing a touchdown. Heinicke fired the ball towards John Bates in the end zone, but it would be picked off by Rodney McLeod to end the game.
Yeah, that was. I mean, he got him. He got him down there. He definitely got him down there.
Very disappointing ending.
It was.
Considering we did have the chance, and he got all the way down the field like that.
And you guys had the lead for the majority of the game.
Majority of the game, absolutely. Yeah. Like that was definitely a winnable game, but.
Both games against the Eagles. I mean, even the first start with Garrett Gilbert. You guys could have gone and in that game, they outrushed you guys. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I want to say it was like 232 to 68. In this game, we'll break down the numbers for you guys real quick. Total yards a lot more balanced. Philly 330 to Washington's 312. Washington outgained Philly in passing yards 218 to 212. You guys actually held them because last time I'm pretty sure they got 232 rushing yards. This game they only had 84, or I'm sorry, this game they only had 118, and you guys had 94. So,
what was Heinicke's final numbers?
Heinicke's final numbers on the day: 27 of 36, 247 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Patterson, the leading rusher, 12 carries, 57 yards, 1 touchdown. Second best was Heinicke with 2 for 14. Smallwood had 4 carries for 12. Williams, 2 carries for 4 yards. Terry was the leading receiver with 7 catches for 61 yards. Cam Sims had 4 for 48. And ever impressive John Bates catching 3 for 35. Also notable, Patterson had 5 catches for 41 yards. So Patterson, between rushing and receiving, 98 scrimmage yards.
Yeah, Patterson's definitely going to be back. Patterson is solid for sure.
Yeah. And then also honorable mention, Joey Sly, 3 for 3 on field goals and 1 for 1 on extra points. Always got to give the kicker love. You know me.
Yeah. So unfortunately, with this loss, that's like for sure the end of the season. It's done. So
all you guys can do now is just try to send the Giants out with a loss, and if God wills it, fire Joe Judge on his way out, because this would be something like the 5th or the 6th straight game where if the Giants have lost like four games by 10 or more points, so like double-digit blowout losses. So, I mean, if you guys are able to beat them by 10 or more points again, like that would be, and you guys should. Their offense has looked terrible, and they're either going to be starting Mike Glennon or Jake Fromm, and neither one of those guys should scare you, even.
Not at all. So we actually might get a win next week, which I mean,
you guys should get a win.
Yeah. So cool, I guess. I mean, it doesn't really matter now, but of course, it's always nice to see the team win. But at this point, it's starting to look like a next season kind of talk is coming up. So, but we'll cover that game next week. Hopefully, it's a win to close out the season. And then as that new name news comes to fruition, we'll obviously talk about that as well. So.
Right. Absolutely. Hey, what's going on, faithful? Thanks for joining us this week on the Niners news update. This week, we have, just to start with, after reporting on the fact that we had only had one COVID positive player on the list last week in Mitch Wishnowsky, we had several of our defensive backs placed on the COVID list this week. Now, fortunately, prior to the Rams game coming up, we do have the news that several of our big time defensive backs are going to be active, which is huge news because the defensive backs that we do have, like we've been beaten a lot in pass interference situations, as you know, most in the league. Yeah, of those four players activated are cornerback Dante Johnson, safety Jimmy Ward, uh, nickelback Kwan Williams, and another corner Diamador Lenore, who has been playing recently more in a special teams role. As far as the game, we had the Houston Texans this week in what was a battle of rookie quarterbacks. Trey Lance set to make his second career start ever against Houston Texans rookie Davis Mills. And in that game, the Texans would get the ball to start off. And on the very first play was a run by Rex Burkhead. And he was tackled for a loss by DJ Jones. And the Texans would end up going 3 and out. And they ran 3 straight plays, 2 runs and a pass to Burkhead. I think like total in all like their first 5 or 6 plays between their first and second drive were all either runs or passes to Burkhead. It's like
Yeah, that's
basically
weird.
it's very very one dimensional.
Like you guys playing like arcade, difficulty
yeah.
Madden. Like what are you doing here? Like
Exactly, they're trying to get him to go on fire. But the problem is he wasn't getting any momentum. So for the Niners' first drive, as soon as Trey walked onto the field, he got a huge ovation. Not the faithful finally getting what they've clamored for all season long. Trey Lance getting the start, but the Niners would end up going 3 and out on our first drive after 2 runs for not much, and on on a third down, Trey Lance would scramble for 6, but we'd end up punting after that as well. So Texans second possession, like I said, more plays to Burkhead and another punt.
three more plays on
both
possessions.
Okay. Yeah, so it was 6 then. Okay, so that confirms.
Oh my God!
They went to Burkhead their first 6 plays. I mean, he had a huge game against the Chargers in that huge upset win. Maybe they thought, but we've defended the run well all season. If you're gonna beat the Niners defense, you've got to do it through the air. And hopefully, if for your sake, get some defensive pass interference calls against us, which we'll get more into in a minute. So
yeah, that's just crazy to go six plays in a row to the same guy.
It's like, hey, I think it's gonna work this time, guys. I think this is the time.
Six times the charm, guys. Like,
David Culley's in there with Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator, and he's like, you know what, coach? This fucking time, we got him. But I guarantee it. This is the time.
There's no way they think we're going to call it a 5th time. No. And then on the 6th time, well, now there's no way that they think we're going to call it again.
I mean, if you're the Houston Texans, Kyle Shanahan's like, they may run every play this game. So Trey Lance would end up completing his first pass of the day to Elijah Mitchell for 3 yards. So small pickup, but it's good to get the first one off the board. Then the Niners would end up running Kittle out of the backfield for a gain of 6. So they were facing a 3rd and 1. Trey would pick up the first down on a quarterback sneak. Elijah Mitchell on the next play gains 13 on a nice run. However, the drive would end up stalling out. We would go for it on a 4th and 1, and I didn't like the play call at all. It was Trey Lance, taking the snap out of the shotgun and then pitching it to Elijah Mitchell on a 4th and 1. That's a play that requires too much development in the backfield. You want something that's gonna go quick to the hole. Like, I mean, they ran a quarterback sneak earlier in the drive, and I mean, I guess you could think that maybe Houston's gonna load the A gap and defend that, but I don't know. I think that would have been a better play call. But we got tackled for like a loss of 3. Um, so the Texans
Yeah, so
picked. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the Texans pick up their initial first drive of the day, but once again stall out,
Yep.
and the game was just a big punt fest. Starting out like this, it was just back and forth. Well, it was just the punters getting lots of work today.
Yeah, and at that time, Mitch Wishnowsky fresh off the COVID list, so he punted pretty well given the situation. You know, he didn't really show any ill effects of that, which was big.
Yeah, you never really know when a player comes back from COVID. Like when Taylor Heinicke came back the week after his. I mean, he had a terrible game. I mean, I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it's one of those things that if it's a lingering kind of thing, and then they might not be positive, and they're still weak from it. It could definitely affect their playing.
Yeah, I think that definitely happened with Taylor because his symptoms were pretty severe from what I had heard. So yeah, I mean the Niners would put together their best drive to that point, backed up inside their own 10. Trey finds Brandon Ayuk for a gain of 12 and a first down. Then we ran the just gonna call it the Debo special when we lined Debo up in the backfield and he would pick up 13 on the following play, and then one play later, going to Trent Sherfield for his 8th catch of the season. I love when we get him involved. I really thought when we picked him up from the Cardinals, we were going to use Trent Sherfield more in the passing game, but really hasn't developed that way. I mean, he's like I said, he's only got 8 catches. He plays on special teams every single game, but he's a really good player. So, I mean, that just really shows you how big Juwan Jennings has stepped up for us, though.
Yeah, he has been really good, actually.
He has been.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then the Niners would end up picking up 4 first downs on that drive before Trey would end up taking his first and only sack of the game. First, then facing a free Mills, somebody Brandon first down. A1 Williams slot corner providing the coverage, and then with one left to play, Davis Mills would connect with Brandon to give Houston a surprising 7. So for
the way that this was odd. 7-0 Texas. That's what I was expecting.
Pick a team to be up 7-0. You probably would have expected it to be.
Of course, absolutely.
So then, also at directioning, and Ebukam or Samson would end up split back of Davis Mills would stall out the drive.
What's a sack? Like a sack of Davis Mills.
Yeah.
Stupid joke, but.
I understand. Yeah. They would get a sack on Davis Mills, and then the Niners would get one last chance to score points before the second half, with 38 seconds left, and Trey would find Debo for a gain of 17 on the first play of the drive. On the following play, Trey connects with Ayuk for a gain of 27 on one of the best plays of the game. And Ayuk gets out of bounds with 14 seconds left. And then it was a crazy situation where Trey went to throw the ball, and it went right through the Houston defender's hands, got tipped, and it went right into Ayuk's hands, who was standing right at the. Did you see that? Ayuk was standing right at the sideline, and
that
ended up getting
crazy.
The ball deflected right to him. So that gets us right in it made the field goal attempt way shorter. It was a 37-yard attempt at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
Robbie's almost automatic inside 40, so he drills a 37-yarder, cuts the game to 7-3 at the half. So at least we had something positive to build off of going into the half.
Yeah,
and then also getting the ball coming out of the second half, which is always good when you get the opportunity to double up like that. Score before halftime and then also get the ball. The Niners would get down to the Houston 33 after a huge catch and run by Ayuk. Ayuk had an absolutely huge game. I mean, he went absolutely off. I'll give you. He had 4 catches for 94 yards, which is season high to this point. So he led all the Niners receivers. And we ended up taking it down into field goal range off that one play. But the Niners end up coming away with no points after that, after they would go for it on a 4th and 1. and we would target Ayuk, and the pass would fall incomplete. Houston would take over, but 6 plays later, Davis Mills throws his first interception of the day to Marcel Harris, our former safety turned linebacker, and that would set the Niners up nicely. They'd be aided by a 37-yard pass interference call, which would allow us to set up an 8-yard touchdown pass from Trey to Elijah Mitchell, which was Trey's 4th passing touchdown of the season, and that would put the Niners ahead for their first lead of the game, 10-7.
Yeah, definitely starting to look good. And then the Niners managed to stall out the ensuing Houston drive as Jordan Willis would pick up a sack in his 2nd straight drive.
Yep, 2nd straight game, yeah.
Or 2nd straight game, yes. Yeah. Excuse me.
No, I knew what you meant. And then, Davis Mills ending up going to Cooks again. You notice a pattern. I mean, they pretty much all they've got is Brandon Cooks and Rex Burkhead for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a little Nico Collins here and there. So you can tell why Houston was a 4-12 team after this. So he ends up getting a huge gain, but Houston gets called for holding. So that kind of summarizes how the game went for him. So backed him all the way up. At the end of the 3rd quarter, the Niners were holding on to a 10-7 lead. After that, we kind of turned it on a little bit on them. But they were.
Although we get this quick, not surprising thing that happened.
Yeah, go ahead.
On a 3rd and 11, Josh Norman was called for defensive interference, which gave Houston 33 yards of field position and an automatic first down. So, Josh Norman, thanks again, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he actually, for the first time since he really had that meltdown earlier in the season. I want to say, I think it was against Seattle. No, it was against Arizona, because it was the situation where it was him and Cliff Kingsbury. I remember that. And, he got benched for the first time after that pass interference. So he would be benched in favor of Dante Johnson, who's a veteran corner for us. He's been on the team a couple different stints. But on the next play, he would get flagged for an additional 22 yards on another. So it was weird. On back-to-back calls, we got penalized. So those would be the 18th and 19th defensive pass interference calls against the Niners this season, which obviously is
I don't know what is going on in that backfield, but Jesus Christ.
I know. I think that it's safe to say that, I mean, obviously there's other positions, but I would be shocked if the Niners don't draft a corner with our first pick. Obviously, we don't have a first-round pick this year because of the Trey trade, but maybe in the 2nd round we.
It's probably.
I'd be
probably
shocked
likely
if we didn't get a corner. So surprise, surprise! Here's another guy we're always talking about. Obviously, going to earn himself some money. Arden Key managing to pick up a huge 3rd down sack, which forced a longer field goal attempt than originally planned by Kaimi Fairbairn, a 46-yarder attempt. But it was no good. It was no good. So the Texans would come away with nothing after a pretty positive drive. After that, still up 10-7, the Niners would drive 65 yards in 5 plays. Trey finds Debo on a beautiful 45-yard pass. Everybody says that we don't take enough shots down the field. He took a little bit of a shot down the field on that one, and Debo scored all the way for 17 to put the Niners ahead 17-7. On the day, Debo's numbers, not much of a threat in the backfield compared to usual. Only 7 carries for 19 yards, but he did have 3 catches for 63 yards and a touchdown. So, averaging over 20 yards per reception.
Yeah, those rushing yards aren't quite like you're used to hearing.
Yeah.
Also, what was weird is how Kittle was held without a catch until the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
You hate to see Kittle not being targeted, but fortunately Trey looked his way on a 3rd and 12 for a gain of 29 yards. So at least he got something going there.
Yeah, that's big. Now what's notable about that is Kittle came into this game with 871 receiving yards. So that 29 brought him up to an even 900. So with 1 game to go, obviously the Rams have a pretty good defense, but Kittle's got a shot at his 3rd career 1,000-yard season with the Niners. He already has established a career high this season for touchdowns with 6. So we'll have to see. But yeah, Trey really didn't look his way. It definitely only targeted twice, caught one for 29
Yeah,
yards. And, that's coming off a game where he had 2 catches for 21 yards against the Titans and really didn't see a lot of looks either. And that's coming after 3 historic games. So hopefully we can get him on track and get a win against the Rams and get into the playoffs and have, because we really want to feed Kittle. He's definitely a player you want to get
definitely.
involved. Let's see here. So at that point, we were ahead 17-7.
Yeah, on the following play, Elijah
go.
Mitchell broke a run of 37 yards to take the ball down to the Texans 6. The Niners would add another field goal to make the lead 20-7 with 3:19 left in the game.
Yeah, at that point, starting to feel pretty good against, that Houston offense, which isn't a huge threat. Houston would end up turning it over on downs in a situation where they would have to go for it on a 4th and 2 with Dante Johnson, who was in there for Josh Norman, making a nice pass breakup on a pass intended for Nico Collins. So
good to see that at least, subbing him in paid off after the first immediate defensive passing appearance.
And Josh Norman didn't end up coming back in the game, so I'm very curious to see if he ends up coming out there against the Rams, because he's not one of our defensive backs that was on the COVID list. So as far as I know, Josh Norman is healthy. So if he's not out there playing, I'd imagine it's more of a performance thing. So the Niners would end up taking back over after the turnover on downs with 2:41 left in the game, and we'd add one more 36-yard Robbie Gould field goal to take a 23-7 lead with 1:12 left. Houston was not able to do anything else. So picking up the 23-7 win, definitely a game that you would expect to win and by a score that I wasn't shocked by. I was just shocked going into the half trailing 7-3 to the Texans.
Yeah. That was odd. That was a very strange start.
A little bit of a slow start, but you can't say that we never started slow in games with Jimmy.
And you know what, Trey needed some time to get in the rhythm and start getting going, and that seems like what happened. So
and that happens with Jimmy sometimes from time to time too. I mean, I've seen a few games where we'll have 3 or like no points in the first half, or maybe even get like a touchdown before the half. And then the Niners come out in the second half and really turn it on. So I will say this. Kyle is really good at making halftime adjustments. If something's not working in the half, it's like, okay, this isn't working. Let's try something different. But also just want to mention the potential returns of several key players going into the Rams game. The practice windows have been activated for Emmanuel Mosley coming off IR, and also wide receiver Mohamed Sanu. We've obviously mentioned Juwan Jennings, Ayuk, and Debo all playing really good receiver for us. Also Trent Sherfield when he gets an opportunity to sprinkled in there. So it'll be interesting if we get Mohamed Sanu back for the last game or the playoffs to see, getting us even more dangerous at that wide receiver position. Azeez Al-Shire just missed the last game. But, he's obviously been having his best season ever. And Dre Greenlaw also coming back. This will only be his 3rd game of the season that he's played in. He's had a groin injury a lot of the year and complications with that. So hopefully we can win against the Rams because we need to win or have the Falcons lose to get into the playoffs.
And then at this point, I mean, beat the Rams and be nice and healthy playoffs as long as everything stays good in the Rams. Players coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so excited to get Emmanuel Mosley back because, like I said, he's our best corner outside of Jason Verrett, who's been out since week 1 against the Lions. I mean, we haven't had him in ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely looking forward to it. But, I mean, we really need to – I mean, we can't leave it up to the Falcons to beat the Saints. We really need to go in there and handle business. And we've won 5 straight against the Rams, so – you would think that we've got the advantage, but I mean the Rams also know that we've won 5 straight against them, so it's like, when's that one time that it breaks and like McVay finally makes the adjustment? I mean, I hope it's not this time when our season's on the line.
Now we're gonna make it 6, and we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah, we're follow us by for a win. because honestly, if Kyle beats McVay for the sixth straight time, then the amount of Rams and Kyle McVay, Kyle Shanahan, or Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan memes that I will post on this show will be hilarious. So stay tuned next week and see. But have a good night, everyone, and go Niners. That's going to do it this week for the Extra Point Show. Join us next week as we recap the NFL's first ever Week 18. And at next week, we're going to know everybody that's in the playoffs. I mean, there's still a few spots open right now, so we don't know all the spots. So we'll go over those games and let you know who gets in. But
yeah, I'm excited to see the matchups for the playoffs. You know, who's going to play who.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, there's a few teams still up in the air, but you know, once that is decided, it'll be exciting who plays who.
Absolutely, absolutely. I always love playoff football. It's always a great atmosphere. And join us next week. If you're not already, like and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And thanks for tuning into the Extra Point Show. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.